Hi, welcome to my channel where we talk about writing tips, reading, mostly fantasy and romance, and also go on random tangents that have nothing to do with reading or writing, but it's mostly going to be about writing. So to start off, I just showed you a little piece of my writing sanctuary. Personally, I feel best when I feel like I write my best when I am at peace. Even if the scene is filled with chaos, conflict, and agony, it helps me to feel at peace while I'm writing. Like the blank slate on the page is also how I feel inside, and that lets my characters come to life more, and I don't bring my own baggage of the day on the screen. I didn't always used to have my own desk. I started with very meager beginnings. I remember when I very first had an idea for a book, I was working at Walmart and I would write during my 15-minute breaks. I would go out to my car and I would just put as much that was in my head onto the page, and I would write by hand, which meant that it was very slow and probably not nearly as many words as I write now. And that was a different project. That was 8 years ago, and yeah. Well, when I decided that writing was something I wanted to really pursue, I looked up all sorts of advice. And one of the big things that people would say, especially to 20-year-olds like I was at that time, was to go out and live and experience things. So after I graduated from college, I did this AmeriCorps program, and I worked out in the forests of California fighting fires. And that was enough of an experience for me, apparently. I decided to get a TEFL certificate, and then I started teaching English to speakers of other languages, and the place that I worked in person was in Peru. So that was definitely an experience, and I feel like I've learned so much about the world and myself, and I think that I will be a better writer for it. And through all that time, I always was reading. In fact, one book that I read while I was fighting for the fires in the forest in California was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. And then I read Words of Radiance. And now, like 3 years later, I'm finally getting around to reading Oathbringer. I watched this YouTube recap on the first two books because it's been a minute since I read it, but I'm excited to dive into this very big book this month. Now, as far as writing and how I was talking about, I like my place to be at peace and my inner self to be at peace. So one thing that I do like to do before writing is I like to meditate. It honestly helps me a lot. It clears my head, it takes away that internal editor that I have when it comes to writing. And yeah, and then I also turn off the lights. I just have those little glowing light bulbs that you saw before, and then I get some tea, or if it's earlier in the day, I get coffee. And I like how tea has these little sayings on them. The only thing that can limit you is believing that you are limited. Become limitless. And I think that's a really motivating little thing for writing. I feel like I have been hitting the goals that I've had as far as writing goes lately. And right now I aim for 800 words a day minimum. When I first started and I started doing those word count goals, I would try to only hit 250 words a day, and then it was 500, and now I'm at 800, and maybe soon it'll be 1,000. But on really good days, I can write 2,000 words. And those are days where I have absolutely no distractions and I'm really in the zone. But yeah, and I am a fantasy writer first and foremost. I've had a few attempts at novels before, but I've never actually finished any. I am determined that this is the year I will actually finish. And maybe in a later video I'll tell you a little bit about what I am writing, but for now, I think I'm going to keep that to myself. So some tools I like to personally use for writing, and this might be helpful if you're a new writer or if you're getting back into writing. I like to keep a little journal on me at all times in case if I ever have any random ideas that might be beneficial for the book. And then as far as actually organizing my plot and my characters and the world, I like to use Google Sheets. I color code things and have plot points on one sheet, and then I have character details on another, world building details on another. Yeah, you get the point. And then, yeah, they help me organize. Initially, I was very much a pantser. I was really, really terrible at planning, but I've decided that if I ever want to actually finish a book, I need to be more of a plotter. I don't think I'm ever going to 100% be a plotter. I'm more of a plantser now. I have my plot details written out, and I know where the story is going, but sometimes when I'm writing, the characters will surprise me, and I love that. That's my favorite part of writing. I don't always like to know everything that I'm going to write until the very moment that I write it, and I'm in that creative zone. So one thing I like to use to keep me focused are writing sprints. It usually takes me 2 25-minute writing sprints to get to my goal of 800 words for the day, but and then honestly after about an hour my brain starts feeling fried when it comes to writing fiction, but sometimes I am able to write longer than that, and when I go for 2 hours, that's usually when I can get in 2,000 words on the page. And currently my favorite writing sprint video is that one that Abby Emmons put up about writing on a dark academia train. So yeah, anyways, if you are a new writer, or if you're just someone who loves books and you want to learn more about the writing process, at least my personal writing process, then go ahead and give me a like and subscribe. And also I'm gonna have some reading videos up when I can. So yeah, see you next time.